At a friend's party, we mocked my husband about me being in charge of the house. But then I'm standing in Anna's kitchen, my third glass of wine, making the room spin just a little. It's Friday night, and our friend group's monthly get together is in full swing. The music pulses from the living room, but the real action is happening right here, where I lean against the granite counter, holding court with three of my closest girlfriends. So then, I say, lowering my voice conspiratorially, I told David that if he wanted to buy that ridiculous gaming computer, he'd better figure out where the extra money was coming from, because it sure as hell wasn't coming from my decorating budget. The women around me burst into laughter. I'm on a roll tonight, and it feels good to be the center of attention. At 32, I've started to wonder if marriage has made me boring, but moments like this reassure me I've still got it. Girl, you've got him wrapped around your finger. Anna cackles, topping off my wine. I take another sip, feeling warm and loose. You know it. David knows who wears the pants in our house. I'm practically preening now. The man can't even decide what to eat for dinner without checking with me first. More laughter. I'm about to launch into another story when movement in the doorway catches my eye. David is standing there, car keys already in hand. His face is completely blank, but I know my husband of 5 years well enough to recognize that particular stillness. He's heard everything. I think, oh shit, he wasn't supposed to hear that. But instead of feeling guilty, I feel annoyed. Why does he have to look so hurt? It's just some harmless girl talk. Ready to go? He asks, his voice flat. Already? It's barely midnight, I protest, not moving from my spot. The room has gotten uncomfortably quiet. I have an early meeting tomorrow. You can get an Uber if you want to stay. And then he just leaves. Not a scene, not a fight, just a quiet exit that somehow feels worse than if he'd yelled. Anna touches my arm. Melissa, that was kind of harsh what you said. David looked really hurt. I roll my eyes dramatically. Please, David's fine. He knows I'm just joking around. But a small voice in my head whispers, did he look fine to you? I push the thought away and raise my glass. Now, where was I? I'm fumbling with my key at our front door at 2:30 a.m., the world spinning a bit too much. When I finally manage to get inside, the house is dark and quiet. I kick off my heels in the entryway, not bothering to put them away neatly like David always asks me to. Making my way upstairs, I'm rehearsing what I'll say to him. It was just a joke, babe. Don't be so sensitive. But when I enter our bedroom, I find David sleeping on the far edge of our king-sized bed, his back to my side. He never sleeps like that. Usually he waits up for me no matter how late. I think, fine, be that way. I'm too tired and drunk to deal with his wounded pride tonight anyway. The next morning, I wake up with a splitting headache. The space beside me is empty, the sheets cold. The smell of coffee drifts up from downstairs, so I know David's up. I check my phone, 10:15 a.m. He's let me sleep in, which should be nice, but somehow feels passive-aggressive today. When I finally make my way downstairs, David is sitting at the kitchen table, dressed in jeans and a t-shirt I bought him last Christmas. He's reading something on his iPad, a half-empty coffee mug beside him. Morning, I mumble, heading straight for the coffee pot. Morning, he replies, not looking up. I pour myself a cup and lean against the counter, studying him. His face gives nothing away. About last night, I begin, going for casual. You know, I was just joking around with the girls, right? It didn't mean anything. David finally looks up at me, and something in his eyes makes me freeze. It's not anger I see there. It's something worse. Disappointment. Were you joking, Melissa? Because it sounded like how you actually feel. His voice is calm, controlled. I feel defensive heat rising in my cheeks. Oh my God, are you seriously upset about some silly comments I made after a few drinks? Lighten up. It's not about the comments. He closes his iPad cover slowly. It's about respect. Do you even respect me anymore? Of course I do. This is ridiculous. Is it? Because lately it feels like you see me as some kind of project or an employee you manage, not a partner. I laugh, but it sounds hollow even to my ears. Now you're just being dramatic. David stands up, takes his mug to the sink, and rinses it carefully, always so meticulous, so controlled. It drives me crazy sometimes. I'm going to my brother's for a while. I need some space to think. My stomach drops. Think about what? David, this is stupid. You're overreacting to one little joke. He looks at me directly now. When was the last time you said something kind about me to your friends? Not something about how I annoyed you or how you trained me, but something genuinely appreciative? I open my mouth to answer, then close it. I can't remember. That's what I thought, he says quietly. I'll be back tomorrow. We can talk then. As he walks out the door, I think he'll get over it. He always does. But a small, sinking feeling tells me maybe this time is different. I'm sitting in our living room Sunday afternoon, scrolling mindlessly through Instagram when my phone pings with a message from Anna. Hey, can we talk? Coffee at Millstone in 30? I text back, sure. Everything okay? Just want to check in after Friday. I roll my eyes. David came home yesterday evening, but things are still tense. He's being civil but distant, sleeping in the spare room last night with some excuse about not wanting to disturb me with his early alarm. Part of me is starting to worry, but a bigger part is just irritated that he's making such a big deal out of nothing. 30 minutes later, I'm sliding into a booth at our favorite coffee shop. Anna is already there, 2 lattes waiting on the table. She looks uncharacteristically serious. Hey, I say, dropping my purse on the seat. Why the emergency meeting? Anna takes a deep breath. It's about Friday night and, well, about you and David. I groan. Not you too. David is being completely ridiculous about this whole thing. Melissa, Anna says quietly, it wasn't just Friday. You do this all the time. Do what? Talk about David like he's, I don't know, this annoying child you have to manage, not like someone you love and respect. I feel my cheeks flush. That's not true. It is, though, and it's gotten worse over the past year. We've all noticed, but no one wanted to say anything. So you're all talking about me behind my back? Nice. I reach for my coffee, noticing my hand is slightly shaking. We're worried about you, about your marriage. David is a good guy, Mel, one of the best, and the way you talked about him at the party, it was just some joking around. No. Anna's voice is firm now. It wasn't. It was mean. And the look on his face when he heard you. She shakes her head. If my husband ever looked at me that way, I'd be devastated. I think she doesn't understand. She doesn't know David like I do. But a memory flashes in my mind. David's face in the doorway, that shut-down expression I've been seeing more and more lately. Look, Anna continues, James and David had lunch yesterday. David's really hurt, Mel. James said he's never seen him like this. A cold feeling spreads through my chest. David and James getting together to talk about our marriage. That's new. What exactly did David say? I ask, trying to keep my voice steady. Anna hesitates. James didn't share details, but he did say one thing that stuck with me. David asked him, how do you know when you've done everything you can to save a marriage? The words hit me like physical blow. Save our marriage? Are things really that bad? That's dramatic, I say, but my voice wavers. We had a fight, couples fight. This isn't about one fight, Melissa. This is a pattern, and I'm telling you this as someone who loves you. You need to take this seriously before it's too late. As I leave the coffee shop, I think, maybe I have been a little harsh lately. I'll make it up to him tonight. But deep down, I'm starting to worry that I've done something that can't be fixed with takeout and an apology. I'm standing in our kitchen that evening, stirring David's favorite pasta sauce. I've gone all out. Garlic bread in the oven, a bottle of good red wine breathing on the counter, his favorite dessert chilling in the fridge. A peace offering. The front door opens at exactly 6:30. David is always punctual. Hey, I call out, trying to sound casual. Hope you're hungry. I made carbonara. David appears in the doorway, still in his work clothes. Crisp blue button-down, dark slacks. At 36, he's more handsome than when we met, with touches of gray at his temples that I usually find sexy. Tonight, though, he just looks tired. Thanks, he says, but I already ate. I feel a flash of annoyance. You couldn't have texted me? I've been cooking for an hour. He sighs. I'm sorry, I didn't know you were planning this. Well, surprise, I say, gesturing to the elaborate setup with forced cheerfulness. I wanted to do something nice. David looks at the table, then back at me. Is this your way of apologizing? Yes, I shouldn't have said those things at the party. It was just stupid drunk talk. He nods slowly. And all the other times? When you call me helpless in front of your mother? Or tell people I can't make a decision without your approval? or joke about how you've trained me well, I think, shit, he's been keeping score. Come on, David, those are just jokes. They stopped being funny a long time ago, Melissa. He loosens his tie. Do you know how it feels to realize your wife has more contempt than respect for you? To hear from other people that my wife makes fun of me when I'm not around? That's not fair. I don't. You do. His voice is quiet but firm. And I've let it go on too long. I kept thinking it would get better, that maybe I was being too sensitive. But after Friday night, seeing how you didn't even care how I felt, I realized something has to change. My heart is pounding now. What are you saying? I'm saying I've booked an appointment with a marriage counselor for Thursday at 7. I'd like you to come. Relief floods through me. Counseling. That's all. Not separation or divorce. Of course, I say quickly. Anything you want. David looks at me for a long moment. I need to know if you actually think there's something wrong here, or if you're just agreeing to appease me. It's a fair question, and for the first time, I stopped to really think about our marriage, about how David has been pulling away for months, about how I've been filling the growing silence between us with cutting remarks and criticism. I swallow hard. I think I've been unhappy, and I've been taking it out on you instead of dealing with it. And that's not fair to you. Something in his expression softens slightly. That's the most honest thing you've said to me in a long time. I move toward him, wanting suddenly, desperately, to be in his arms. I don't want to lose you, David. He steps back, maintaining the distance between us. Then you need to decide what kind of marriage you want to have, because I can't live like this anymore. That night, I lie awake in our bed, alone again. David is in the guest room. I think, what happened to us? When did I start treating the person I love most like someone I barely tolerate? For the first time, I'm truly afraid of what I might have broken. I'm sitting in Dr. Lambert's office Thursday evening, perched on the edge of a beige couch that feels too soft, too yielding. David sits on the other end, the space between us a perfect metaphor for our marriage right now. So, Dr. Lambert says after we've covered the basics, David, why don't you share what brought you here today? David clears his throat. I feel like our marriage has become unbalanced. Melissa often speaks to me or about me in ways that feel disrespectful. When I try to talk to her about it, she dismisses my feelings or says I'm being too sensitive. I feel defensive heat rising in my cheeks. That's not entirely. Dr. Lambert holds up a gentle hand. Melissa, I'd like you to just listen for now. You'll have your turn. I clamp my mouth shut, thinking, great, they're ganging up on me already. David continues, his voice steady. Last Friday was a breaking point. I overheard Melissa telling our friends that she controls everything in our relationship. Finances, decisions, even what I eat. She was laughing about it, like my role in our marriage is a joke. And how did that make you feel? Dr. Lambert asks, humiliated, disrespected. And, he pauses, lonely, like I'm living with someone who doesn't even like me anymore. His words hit me like a physical blow. Doesn't like him? I love David, don't I? When it's my turn to speak, I try to explain. I don't mean those things the way they sound. It's just banter. Everyone jokes about their spouses. Do they? Dr. Lambert asks mildly. Does David joke about you this way? I open my mouth, then close it. No, he doesn't. David has always spoken about me with pride, even when I'm not around. I know this because friends have told me, sometimes with envy in their voices. I think, Dr. Lambert says gently, that what we're seeing here is a pattern of contempt. It's one of the most destructive forces in a relationship. Contempt, I repeat, shocked. I don't feel contempt for David. But even as I say it, I'm remembering the eye rolls when he can't find something right in front of him, the sighs when he doesn't load the dishwasher correctly, the cutting remarks when he asks a question I think is obvious. Oh God, what have I become? The session continues, but I'm barely present for it. I'm too busy replaying years of our marriage through this new, horrible lens. On the silent drive home, David finally speaks. What are you thinking? That I've been awful to you, I whisper, tears threatening, and I didn't even realize it. He nods, eyes on the road. What are you going to do about it? It's a fair question, one I don't have an answer for yet. When we get home, David heads upstairs with a quiet good night. I stand in our kitchen, feeling the weight of everything I might have already lost. I think I need to fix this. I need to be better. But a terrifying thought follows. What if it's too late? I'm standing at our bedroom door 2 weeks later, a peace offering in hand. It's been 14 days of me trying, really trying to change. 14 days of watching my words, of swallowing sarcastic comments, of making an effort to speak to David with the same respect I'd give a friend. But something's still off. David is polite but distant, going through the motions of our marriage without really engaging. He's back in our bed, but there's an invisible wall between us. I knock softly, even though it's my bedroom too. He's reading in bed, glasses perched on his nose. I brought you something, I say, holding out a small wrapped package. He takes it, unwrapping it carefully. Inside is a framed photo of us from our honeymoon, young and sun-kissed and so in love it radiates from the image. I found it when I was cleaning out the office, I explain. Do you remember that day? A small smile touches his lips. The day you insisted we hike to that waterfall, even though it wasn't on the tour. And it was the most beautiful thing we saw the whole trip, I finish, sitting gingerly on the edge of the bed. For a moment, we're connected by the memory. Then David sets the photo on his nightstand and the moment passes. David, I say, my voice catching, I'm trying. I really am. He looks at me, really looks at me, for what feels like the first time in weeks. I know you are, but Mel, I'm not sure it's enough. What do you mean? Panic rises in my throat. He sighs, taking off his glasses. I've been offered a position in the Chicago office, a promotion. I think I'm going to take it. Chicago? I repeat, stunned. But that's a transfer. We'd have to move. No, he says quietly. I'd be moving. I think we need some time apart. Real time, not just separate bedrooms. I feel like I've been punched in the stomach. You're leaving me? I'm giving us both space to figure out what we want, what kind of lives we want to live, who we want to be. But I know what I want, I protest, tears flowing freely now. I want you, our marriage. I'm changing, David. I'm working on myself. And that's good, he says gently. But I need to work on myself too, away from this dynamic we've created. I've let you talk down to me for years, and that's on me too. I think, this can't be happening. This isn't real. But the calm resolve in David's eyes tells me it is very real. When, I manage to ask. 2 weeks. They need me there by the 1st of the month. 2 weeks. 14 days to convince my husband not to leave me. But looking at his face, kind but determined, I know with crushing certainty that his mind is already made up. I've spent 5 years slowly pushing him away, and now he's finally going. I'm standing in my kitchen 6 months later, staring at divorce papers. They arrived this morning, courier delivered in a heavy manila envelope. The house feels too big now, too quiet. After David left, I tried to fill the space with noise, friends over for dinner, music playing constantly, even a brief disastrous attempt at getting a dog. Nothing helped. I pick up my phone, scroll to David's name, and hesitate. We haven't spoken in almost a month. Our communication has dwindled to practical matters about the house, finances, the logistics of untangling 2 lives. My thumb hovers over the call button when a text comes through from Anna. Hey, checking in. Dinner tonight? Anna has been my lifeline through all this. Even though she was the one who first called me out on my behavior, she stood by me as I've tried to pick up the pieces. I text back, can't tonight, got the papers today. Her response is immediate. Coming over. Wine or whiskey? Both, I reply. An hour later, we're sitting on my living room floor, takeout containers spread around us, the divorce papers set aside but looming in my peripheral vision. Have you talked to him? Anna asks carefully. I shake my head. Not about this. I don't know what to say. Are you going to sign them? I take a long sip of wine. Do I have a choice? He wants out. This isn't a negotiation. Anna is quiet for a moment. Jessica ran into him last week, at that tech conference downtown. My heart thumps painfully. Oh, she said he looked good, happy. Anna watches my face carefully. She said he was there with someone. The words hang in the air. Someone. David has moved on. Good for him, I say, but my voice cracks. Mel, Anna starts. No, I mean it, I interrupt. I want him to be happy. I swallow hard. I just thought we'd be happy together. Anna reaches for my hand. I know. Later that night, alone again, I pull out my phone and type a text to David. I got the papers. I'll sign them this week. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for everything. You deserved better. I hit send before I can lose my nerve. His response comes an hour later, just as I'm getting ready for bed. Thank you. I hope you find what you're looking for, Mel. So formal, so final. This man who once knew every inch of my body, who held me through my father's death, who planned a surprise party for my 30th birthday, down to the exact flavor of cake I loved as a child, now reduced to polite text messages. I think this is really over. And for the first time, I truly accept it. I'm clutching a coffee cup at Northside Cafe 10 months after David left. It's a crisp fall day, and I'm meeting my new real estate agent to discuss selling the house. It's too big, too full of memories, and frankly, too expensive for me to maintain on my own. I'm early, scanning property listings on my phone when the door chimes. I look up out of habit and my heart stops. David is walking in. He hasn't seen me yet. He's laughing at something the woman beside him is saying. She's pretty in an understated way, honey blonde hair, minimal makeup, a genuine smile that reaches her eyes. I have approximately 3 seconds to decide. Duck out the back, pretend I haven't seen him, or acknowledge him like a mature adult. Before I can decide, he turns and our eyes meet. Recognition, surprise, and something unreadable flash across his face. He says something to his companion, and to my horror, they start walking toward me. Melissa, he says, his voice warm but careful. How are you? Good, I lie, forcing a smile. Really good. How's Chicago? Actually, I'm back in town now. The Chicago position was temporary. He gestures to the woman beside him. This is Emma. Emma, this is Melissa. Emma smiles, extending her hand. Nice to meet you. David's told me a lot about you. I bet he has. I shake her hand, trying not to visibly wince at the words. Emma's a colleague from the Chicago office, David explains. She's interviewing for a position here. Not a girlfriend. The relief that floods through me is embarrassing. We won't interrupt your meeting, David says, nodding toward my real estate papers. It was good to see you, Mel. You too, I manage. As they walk away to place their order, I try to process what just happened. David looks good, really good. He's lost weight, gotten a new haircut, and there's a confidence in his bearing that wasn't there before. He seems lighter, happier. Meanwhile, I've been barely functioning for months. The divorce was finalized 8 weeks ago, and I've been sleepwalking through life ever since. My real estate agent arrives, jolting me back to reality. As we discuss listing prices and staging strategies, I can't help but glance occasionally at David and Emma, huddled at a corner table, heads bent over what looks like a presentation. When my meeting ends, David catches my eye and gives a small wave as I leave. It's friendly, casual, the kind of gesture you'd give an old acquaintance, not someone you once planned to grow old with. Walking to my car, I think, he's really moved on. Why haven't I? I'm sitting across from my therapist, Dr. Chen, 3 weeks later. After running into David, I finally took Anna's advice and started therapy. 10 sessions in, and I'm only just beginning to understand the patterns that led to my marriage's collapse. So, Dr. Chen says, peering at me over her glasses, you mentioned you had a realization this week? I take a deep breath. I saw David with a colleague. They weren't together, but seeing him, how happy he looked, how at peace, it made me realize something. Dr. Chen waits, giving me space to continue. I always thought David was the one who needed me, that I was doing him a favor by being with him because he was so dependent. But that was never true. He didn't need me to manage his life. I needed to manage his life because it made me feel important. Dr. Chen nods encouragingly. And the way I talked about him to others? That wasn't about him at all. It was about me, making myself seem like the competent one, the one in control. I wipe away a tear that has escaped. I built myself up by tearing him down, and I didn't even realize I was doing it. That's a powerful insight, Melissa, Dr. Chen says. Where do you think that need came from? We spend the next hour exploring my childhood with critical parents who were never satisfied, my overachieving sister who always seemed perfect, my deep-seated fear of not being enough. By the end of the session, I'm emotionally exhausted but clearer than I've been in years. Melissa, Dr. Chen says as our time ends, acknowledging these patterns is the first step to changing them. You can't rewrite your marriage, but you can use these insights in your future relationships. Future relationships. The thought both terrifies and intrigues me. That evening, I'm sorting through a box of David's things I found in the garage. items he left behind that I need to either send to him or donate. At the bottom, I find a small leather-bound journal I bought him for Christmas 3 years ago. I assumed he never used it. I hesitate, then open it. Most of the pages are blank, but there's an entry from about 6 months before he left. I love Em more than anything, but I'm starting to wonder if she feels the same. When did I become a project to her instead of a partner? When did her voice lose its warmth when she speaks to me? I don't know how to reach her anymore. The words hit me like a physical blow. All this time, I thought David was oblivious to my attitude, but he felt every eye roll, every sigh, every dismissive comment. He just loved me too much to call me out on it until he couldn't take it anymore. I think I did this. I broke something beautiful with my own hands. And for the first time, I fully accept my role in our marriage's demise. I'm standing on the porch of my house for the last time, watching the moving truck pull away. It's been 18 months since David left, 14 months since our divorce was finalized, and 6 months since I decided to sell the house and start fresh. My phone buzzes with a text from Anna. All ready for the housewarming tomorrow? Need any last-minute help? I smile, typing back, all good, just watching the movers drive away from the old place. See you tomorrow at the condo. As I take one last walk through the empty house, memories flood back, both good and bad. David and I bringing home our first furniture, Christmas mornings, dinner parties with friends, and later the silences, the tension, the slow dissolution of what we had built. I lock the door for the final time and slide the key under the mat for the new owners as arranged. In my car, I find myself driving not to my new condo but to the park where David proposed 7 years ago. I don't know why, just a need for closure, perhaps. I walk to our bench overlooking the lake and sit down, surprised to find tears flowing freely. Not just for David, but for the person I was, the person who took love for granted, the person who didn't understand that respect is the foundation of love. Thought I might find you here. The voice behind me makes me jump. I turn to find David standing there, hands in his pockets, a hesitant smile on his face. David, what are you? Anna told me you were selling the house today. I just thought you might come here. He sits beside me, leaving appropriate space between us. He looks good, healthy, at peace. How have you been? He asks. Better, I say honestly. I've been in therapy, learning a lot about myself, stuff I wish I'd figured out years ago. He nods. Me too, actually. Therapy, I mean. We sit in silence for a moment, watching the sunlight dance on the lake. I'm sorry, I say finally. I know I've said it before, but I mean it more now that I understand better what I did, how I treated you. I know, he says quietly, and I accept your apology. I have for a while now. Are you seeing anyone? The question slips out before I can stop it. He smiles slightly. Actually, yes, for about 4 months now. Her name is Rebecca. She's a pediatric nurse. The news stings, but not as much as I expected. Is it serious? Getting there, he admits. She's kind, Mel, to everyone, not just me. That means a lot to me now. I nod, understanding completely. What about you? He asks. No one special. I'm focusing on myself right now, learning how to be a better person before I try being someone's partner again. David looks at me, really looks at me, for the first time in almost 2 years. You know, despite everything, I'm proud of you, Melissa. This kind of self-reflection isn't easy. His words warm something inside me that's been cold for a long time. Thank you, I whisper. That means more than you know. We sit a while longer, talking easily about neutral topics, his job, my new condo, mutual friends. When we finally stand to leave, there's a sense of peaceful closure I haven't felt since he walked out our door. Take care of yourself, Mel, he says, briefly touching my shoulder. You too, David. Be happy. You deserve it. As I watch him walk away, I think, I lost something precious, but I gained something too. Understanding, self-awareness, a chance to be better next time. The sun is setting as I drive to my new condo, my new life. Alone, but not lonely. Not anymore. I've learned the hardest lesson possible about respect and love, but at least I've learned it, and maybe someday I'll get the chance to do better.